Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacy Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the MotUS Edge, where we talk about leadership, motivation, and all things cheerleading and dance business. As you know, I am Stacy Rowe, here with my favorite co-host, Casey Jones, and our guest today is Chasity Carter, owner of Premier Athletics Columbia, the town, not the country. We are here today to dive into
to have one in the country,
right? We are here today to dive into maintaining a strong culture inside of your gym. So welcome, Chasity. We're super excited to have you on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So I know, go ahead, Casey.
I was just going to jump in. I was thinking about like when I first met you, I think I was with Justin Kitchens. That was
at least 25 years ago, maybe.
At least. Yeah.
It's a long time.
So you met her when she was a baby, because Chastity's only about 28 years old.
I am. It's crazy. Like 2 years old.
I did.
Same as me, Chasity. We're the same age, you and I.
It's crazy.
We all met as 3-year-olds, right?
I know. It's like toddler daycare, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so Chasity and I definitely go way back through our Premier days for sure. Yeah. And what I've loved about Chasity is she's always she's got a good, strong moral compass, I feel like, and we are similar in that way as far as like, this is the line, don't cross the line, you know. And I love that. And I think that she has done a really great job in Columbia. For those of you that don't know, that's in Tennessee. It's a tiny, tiny little town in Tennessee, and she's done a really great job. It reminds me a lot of Clayton, where I was from, actually, and where I started my gym. And I think she's done a really phenomenal job of kind of bringing cheerleading to the area and just building up a culture inside of her facility. So tell us a little bit about, you know, how do you do that? What are some of your struggles? Give us some stories. Tell us the tea, Chasity.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for the compliments, by the way. So yeah, Columbia is a really small town. So we have a lot of what I call transplants, a lot of kids that come from different areas to train. We don't have a lot of kids that actually live in the area because it is so small. So, you know, just adapting everyone to come in is sometimes a challenge because they come from different walks of life, different communities. But I will say, you know, we really embrace the definition of culture being something we choose to celebrate and something we choose to tolerate, right? And so we've really worked really hard over the last 10 years. This is our 10th season of really instilling basic character qualities in our athletes. And we extend that to parents too. We do a lot of parent education. I feel like parents understanding the sport and understanding how it works and even how it gets into politics and how things can sometimes not fare your way and how to handle that with grace has been kind of what I feel like is a strong point in our gym. I
think that's huge, because like the parent education, I think, is huge. And I think a lot of owners, you know, miss that. I know as a young gym owner, you know, back in the day, like I didn't understand the importance of that. I was young and naive, and I was like, you just need to do what I say and listen, and that's it. And I shouldn't have to explain myself to you at all. And that's young and inexperienced and naive. And so I think that's so important. And I do want to say too, that congratulations on your 10 years. That is her anniversary of Premier Athletics Columbia and her facility. But you've been in All-Star Cheerleading, 25, 30 maybe?
Almost 30. Yeah, I think it's my 28th season.
Yeah. Most of that time with Premier.
So Stacy, you talked about how like when we were young and inexperienced, because I was the same way. Culture wasn't even a word that entered my head at the time, you know, and I've said this on several of our podcasts, you know. Early on in the business planning, we never planned to have a great culture. And I don't know that we knew that we had a great culture until we had a bad culture, you know, and then that's when it became obvious of like our culture went off the rails for a while. And that's when it became obvious the importance of it. But, you know, one thing you said made me think of, yes, we were young, naive. We didn't know the importance of it. But now fast forward 25 or 30 years, and then there are times where you forget what other people don't know. So that, in other words, that parent and that coach education, you know, the coach that's been coaching 2 years, there are things that I just fall short on because I think they should know that because it seems so simple and so obvious. So experience is crucial and critical, but you also have to remember that not everyone has that experience. So we've got to share our experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do a parent boot camp every year. I bring all the parents in and actually let our coaches help me teach. So we kind of do like a main session where we talk about culture and expectations. And then we have breakout sessions where they can go learn about, anywhere from like competition makeup to, nutrition of an athlete, to physical, fitness and how that affects the athlete. Mental health is one of our topics. So they get to kind of break out, and we do like college prep, like how do you get plugged in? What do you do? What are some do's and don'ts? And so it's a really great day for parents just to come and learn and get to talk to the coaches because, a lot of times coaches are coaching and they're on to another team. And so just having that interaction up front and before the season begins, I think has really been helpful, just navigating competition season itself.
I would guess that builds some credibility with your coaches too, that they're, speaking on those topics with the parents. Do you require that a parent attend, or is it optional?
I leave it open for attendance. It's strongly encouraged. And usually I do raffles at the end. So like, everybody that comes gets their kid's name in a jar and they get a free private or something like that. So it kind of incentivizes them to come, and we encourage the kids to come too and listen. We're not hiding anything, but we go over Scoresheets. That's a big part of it, is we break into levels. So everybody that's there breaks into a level, and we help them understand before choreography, why we don't put every kid jumping, or why we only choose 12 kids to tumble and not 17. We kind of explain the rationale behind how we hit the score sheet and what rubric and expectations we have for our gym. So that really does help too, to save the conversation after choreo. Like, why is my kid not in the tumbling? She just got her round off 2 back handsprings. And we explain these are the drivers we have to hit, and your kid is missing a couple of them. So it's something she can keep.
That'd be tough for me. I wouldn't need to be on that meeting because I'd get on my soapbox about the score sheet and some of those flaws. Like, man, every kid can do a toe touch. I get it. Not every kid can tumble, but goodness gracious. Like, come on.
Absolutely.
Before, not to veer too far off topic, but it's funny that you say that, Casey, because Chasity and I were talking before we got on the podcast about cheer sport just a couple weekends ago. Her team was at cheer sport, or a couple of her teams were at cheer sport, and she was telling me how her shadow is the level 5 team, right, Chasity?
Right. That's correct.
They got second place by 0.01. And I'm like, at what point do we say like, this is absurd? I'm sorry, but the score sheet and the human beings judging are not that perfect that we can separate teams by 0.01, in my opinion. And I think it's ridiculous.
Well, you can
that's
take
a tie.
You can take that a step further, and there are divisions in deep divisions of 8 or 9 teams where some of them all got perfect dance scores. Like, really? All 8 teams?
Right.
All single one got, perfect dance scores. And once again, I'm not bashing on the judging because it's hard.
Right. Oh, it's definitely hard.
But it comes down to those like showmanships, like 1.73. Like, where did you pull that from? Like why is it at 1.74? Because that would have made the difference, right? I don't understand. Right. So I get it too. It's frustrating.
And that's a thing that we were blessed. We had a great cheer sport, but then there also, with every blessing, is something to deal with because our parents have an expectation of, hey, we hit the routine. Why didn't we win? Well, the team that won was better, And I had to have a couple of those conversations immediately following cheer sport and explaining why, and then oftentimes the parents want you to instantly change, we didn't win. So what are y'all doing to change the routine?
Right. Well, it's funny, Casey, I was sitting in your parent viewing area and I sat in the little area, not the one upstairs. And some of your parents were over there and they were talking about this weekend and they're like, well, we hit and I don't know. And then you had a couple that were like, well, we didn't hit and we ended up winning, And so the other parents were like, yeah, I just don't get it. And it's funny because they don't, it's hard to explain, like they're just a better team. Like,
that was a thing. I had a conversation with a dad and he was frustrated because their team had hit and they didn't win. And the coaches were not going to make any routine changes, and I explained to him, I was like, the most points that we can get are through execution.
Right.
we can get new coaches, new choreography, new music, and that does not affect our skill level one bit. That doesn't add a single double full to the team. So
you got to chip away, right? You got to chip away at the execution. It's how you do it.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you are both of you really are so open and having those conversations with the parents. I think it's important. And I think the hard part about all that sometimes is I don't want to say there isn't always a great explanation, but sometimes with the 0.01, it's like, basically what Chasity and I were talking about is like, she was talking about using the 0.01 to the kids as motivation to when you don't feel like coming in or when you don't feel like doing the extra work. But at the end of the day, it's really just at that moment, kind of a sit down with the parents and the kids and being like, look, you're clearly fantastic. It stinks that we didn't get the medal in the jacket and you lost by 0.01, but it doesn't take away how fantastic you are. And I don't have a good reason. And unfortunately, that is life sometimes,
That is life.
And it's how you choose to handle it that matters.
Yeah. And I'm hardcore, old school mentality. And I want to tell those kids, we do tell our kids, but you got to make it obvious. You have to if it comes down to where it's that close, if it comes down to a tie, then we've left it up to the judges and it could go our way or it may not go our way. So
I agree. Be undeniable. That's what I used to say to my coaches all the time. You have to be undeniable. And unless you're undeniable, you leave room for, the question.
You leave the door open. Right.
And that's really hard because there are so many good teams now. Yeah. I mean, everybody's good, Yeah.
I mean, losing to Brandon is not an insult. I mean, I'm honored to even be a contender.
And I think that's where, your point, Chasity, about culture, I think that's where it becomes really important because, yes, we all, you don't go in the business of coaching a team of any sport with the intention of losing, right? Like the goal is to train the kids to be the best that they can be and to win whatever it is, whether it's the game, the competition, the race, whatever. That's the goal. But you're not going to win. I mean, unless you're Stingrays Marietta, you're probably not going to win every single competition. You know what I mean? Like you're just not. Yeah. And so you have to build that culture to remind everybody that it's about other things too,
Absolutely.
Well, it is, and that's the thing that we constantly tell and ask of our coaches, what happens when you don't win? Mm-hmm. Because that's the thing. We really can't control the win. Everyone takes those steps to put their teams in the best position to be competitive. Hey, let's work hard. Let's hold the kids accountable. Let's make sure that our choreography, make sure that we're hitting the score sheet, but we don't control what they write on the paper up there sitting on the judges stand. So when we don't win, have we built something? Have we provided an experience? Do we provide a culture strong enough to get us past those losses and for people to keep coming back?
Yeah, that's exactly kind of on our board. So we do practice boards. And one of the questions we write on the board is, how do we win championships? We win practices. And so we really focus on the controllables on our end of winning practice, because if we can win practice twice a week, it doesn't sting as bad when we don't win at the competition. But if we only let that focus be at the competition and not really care about how we train and how we win practice. And we even do a celebration circle at the end of every practice, and we do shout outs. And one of the things is I need everybody to celebrate the wins of practice. And so we always leave practice celebrating the wins. We might have some losses, we all have tough practices, but that is something that I explain to our coaches that, if we can develop a focus on the small wins, not always rewarded with a trophy, that it kind of takes the sting out of those 0.01 losses, that you can be like, hey, but we did this. And, we could have.
So I love that. Give me an example of what would be on a practice board for a day and how you're tracking, what are your wins and losses? I love that idea.
So, our practice boards are, we always spend journal time. So the very first part of our practice, we rotate it. So we have 2 practices a week. One time we're always visualizing or meditating. So we kind of teach our kids how to recenter. And I kind of read the room as to which day I use that as. Usually it's a school day is one that I feel like they need to let go of the day.
Breathe for a minute. Yep.
Right. And then our Sunday practices is more of a journal. So we pick a topic. What our last topic was what coaches can't coach. And that's, motivation, it's attitude, it has to be intrinsic. So we talk about, what do you bring to the table? I can steer you, but I'm just a vibe architect. That's what I call it. Like I'm just can control the vibe of the routine and set an expectation. But like I'm not in charge of you, right? I'm just a cog in the wheel that kind of helps everything move. And so we kind of try to get our mindset right. And then, we go into a very normal warm up. It's the same one. They all know it. So there's a lot of conformity to like how we structure our practices. They know exactly what they're getting into. And, we also have team leads. So once every practice, we rotate a team lead on the team. And so they get to interject what the team is needing. So they have a focus 15. We do focus 15s after our full outs and we let our team kind of vote, like, where do you want to spend that 15 minutes? And so, I've learned that like, if I let the kids invest in the practice plan to a point, we're more likely to get better results. And then we celebrate the team lead, like, hey, that was a great choice. Like, thanks for working on the dance, because that really showed up on the score sheet. And so we do a lot of tracking. We have spreadsheets and we show the kids like, hey, we've spent this much time on our practice plan. So look how it affected your score sheets. For instance, we had Onyx this past weekend. We spent a lot of time on our tumbling because that's where we've been getting beat. And so we had 3 9s this weekend, and that was a big jump for us because we had been 3 7, 3 8s going into execution. So, we celebrated that at Cheersport going into day 2. We're like, hey, look, that was a great job on your part. You guys have chosen that as your practice guide and practice plan. And so we celebrate those things. And then kids give each other shout outs, like little things that the coaches don't always see. So, hey, I noticed, the girl standing behind the stunt was really giving us a lot of mat chat, and that was really helpful. So, we have little things like, we celebrate, and then we give out lucky ducks every practice to this, like, someone that stood out. And we usually give it to not necessarily a skill, but somebody.
I need to send you some CX Brands lucky ducks.
Yeah,
we got a couple boxes of those. So.
Yeah, so we give out a lucky duck every practice, and so that's kind of like the coach's way of celebrating somebody toward the end of practice as well. So we just do a lot of positive reinforcement to kind of enhance our culture.
I think we need to have Chasity on for a webinar to talk all about this. What do you think?
Oh yeah, we do lots of fun things, and it's one of the things I pride myself on. Like we don't claim to have the most knowledgeable coaching staff or even the best in the country, but I would say as far as caring and thoughtful approach, I feel like we do a really good job in our gym. So,
well, you said a couple things there that really, I think, stand out. First of all, the measurables and the tracking of that data, because if you can't measure it, then how do you get better at it?
Sure.
And those are things that I think are important for the kids to see, because you may, and especially as the levels get higher and you have a vision of a routine, because a high level team, it may take months for all the groups to hit their stunts. So, if 75% of practice, they're dropping stunts, then it's easy for them to kind of get down on themselves, or even the parents watching it. But if it is hey guys, last week we hit 4 and this week we hit 5, and they see that positive momentum there, then they're able to build off of that, as opposed to, goodness gracious, we dropped the last 10. We can't make it through this stunt sequence.
My husband has a 3D printer, and we 3D printed a hit stick. So if you ever see us walking around the event with like this stick with like bands on it. So we put a black band for anything that had a deduction. And then we had a sparkle band for every time they hit. So it's a physical reminder every time we go to competition, like they're tracking, and they can see like, oh gosh, we had 4 in a row where we had a deduction. And
that's from practice. That's anytime they throw a full out.
Anytime they do a full out, right?
Practice or a competition or anytime.
Yeah.
So that's something we debate in our gym, because we have a hit board. And all of the teams have their logo up there. We'll do this before big events. So, but what you'll see is like our junior level 1 team, they'll have 37 hits before NCA. And then a world's team, man, they struggle to get 1. Sure. But that is something we've debated.
Then the team that had the 37 hits will have a deduction at competition, and the world's team will hit. And then that's when you're looking at the parents and you're like, I don't know. I mean,
that was shadow.
This is when, excuse me, but this is just when shit happens.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was shadow. They have 40 hits right now, 40 hits on their stick. And they had a deduction day 1, a random hand down. And it's like, oh, what in the world? Like, it's just a fluke kind of thing. But it allows them to track it. And I think it's a good visual representation of like, we all struggle, right? Like but everybody's struggle is different. And to see the growth, even if it's small, that first time the world's team gets the sparkle, it's a big deal, right?
Well, I think that tracking is vital. It's super important. We have had some internal debate in our program on the hit board and the hit zero pins and all this, because man, we were having kids and we felt like some of their anxiety was because, man, I have to go out here and literally if one kid puts one hand down, then our entire team isn't going to get their pins. So we tried to, we've talked about shifting away from the hit zero or the hit pins or this, because like some of our kids were getting crazy anxiety over like, oh my goodness, I don't want to be the one hands down. Right. And then it was taking away from, even this weekend at Cheersport, we had some teams that won, but they still had deductions because they put on a great routine. And we didn't want it to be just about those hit zero pins. Like, did you do a great routine? And if you did, one hands down doesn't make it and I think, Casey,
for the majority of the world, it's the opposite. Like they're not winning. And so they're celebrating the hit zero because it gives the team, correct. It gives the team something to celebrate, and because in most cases, if you want to be first, you do need to hit. So you got to, most of the time, that is the case. You have to, conquer that accomplishment first before you can expect to win.
Absolutely.
Now, yes,
and that's the thing. It's okay to choose your wins, to choose what's a win for, and it's different with different teams in the gym.
Absolutely.
And for us, we kind of shifted to a model with our coaches of like, how do the kids feel and react walking off the floor? Because
that's exactly what I was about to say.
The team knows. They know, and that's another thing too that we teach our coaches. Like, if they go drop two stunts, that's not the time to yell at them. They're going to yell at themselves. They're beating themselves up already. So we're not going to go and kick them while they're down. But also it's a thing of like, man, if the kids are jumping up and down and hugging and they're pumped up about their performance, that's what we try to focus on.
And that's it's funny that you say that, because watching the video after the kids go, that's the very first conversation I have. I'm like, hey, the feeling you just had when you walked off and you felt good about what you just saw and you just did, that's what we're going to hang on to, because we don't know what the judges saw or going to see or going to judge, right? But they can't take that away from us. That feeling that you just experienced.
Remember this feeling.
Right.
That's awesome.
Was yours. So
the other thing I want to touch on really quick before Casey goes into the dad joke of the day is, another thing that Chasity and I were talking about was her youth team. So she has a Youth Flex 3 that they brought to Cheersport. And I loved what she was telling me. It's a newer team. They're young. Anybody, most programs have a youth level 1, maybe a youth level 2. Very few have a youth level 3. Even fewer have a youth level 4. And I think there might be 5 youth level 5 teams in the whole country.
I don't think there's 5. I think there's 1.
So according to the list I just looked at the other day, there's 5, but who knows if that's accurate or not. But anyway, the point is it gets harder. There's fewer and fewer. And so, why don't you explain to Casey, because you told me the story, just what the plan was with your youth level 3. I think this leads to culture, and it's really important for gym owners to understand, like, if you're communicating, effectively, you can still have a really great experience.
Yeah. So this year, the Youth Flex Level 3 opened. And so there's this bridge, and we're a smaller program. We have about 125 athletes. So it's not a giant program, but I'm always kind of like, there's that gap of like, they are youth 2. And then how do we get them to a 3, 4, 5, like without the training? And so everyone on this team is new to level 3. None of them have ever competed level 3. Most of them came from a youth prep 2.2 last year. So when I say a big jump, now I took on this team myself because it was a challenge and kind of an opportunity for me to like be challenged as a coach.
Right.
And they've done phenomenal. They're doing a great job. But I kind of went into Cheersport because on our schedule, I said any level 3 teams are up, not really knowing that I was going to do that. But it was kind of like one of those, let's take a risk. So I had a meeting at the very beginning of the season, and I told the parents, I was very transparent in that this is going to be a push year, meaning your kids are going to learn a lot of new skills, but they might not execute to the level that's going to make them highly competitive at big events, right? So they all voted. I let them vote on whether to go to Cheersport, because it was like, normally we reserve that for our senior upper level teams, because we know it's a cold shower sometimes to go there and do your best and get last, to Stingrays. So we know, right, going into it. So before Cheersport, I'd done some research of the teams we were against, and they were putting up 98s. And I'm like, cool, we've put up 92s. It's fine. So I met with our parents and I was very transparent. I let the kids sit in on it. And I was like, hey, I'm not saying we can't be competitive, but we have to go into this knowing this is about learning how to practice pressure. Right. So our experience this weekend isn't about the win. My expectation is that we hit 0, right? Like I want that for our kids. They can do that. That should be their expectation of themselves, is to show up and try to make sure we're putting out the best we can. But it's more about learning the experience of cheer sport, like just all of it, from the big warm-up room to, just the big stage itself and getting to see all the big teams. I mean, a lot of them went to see the pro league. And so they really had a great experience. Like every parent's post from that team was like, what a great weekend. It was so much fun. And they got last place, which was fine. Like we knew going into it that that was a likely placement for them, but not one of them hung their head. There was no tears wrapped around it. They had a bad day too in their pyramid. But when they came off the stage, I was like, hey, 42 of your 8 counts were absolutely amazing. 2 of them were rough, but let's celebrate the 42 because that was so much better than day 1 even. And they hit day 1. So once again, it was a great opportunity to kind of, communicate culture and then see it to follow through and see everybody still have a good experience. Even
and as a smaller gym, you chose that because Casey and I talk about this all the time, because at some point you have to prepare the kids to move on to the next level. We talk about how, the kids, in order to perfect level 1 skills, they could be at youth level 1 for 4 years. And unless you have 1,000 kids, you're not pushing them through to the next levels to learn the next thing. So I think that,
you use my favorite word there, which is experience. And that's a thing of like, we can't provide wins. We can't guarantee that, but we can provide an experience.
Right.
And you did an awesome job of managing the expectations of that team and their parents and the kids and everything, which then in turn gave them the opportunity to go to a competition and have a wonderful experience. And to see some things that they may not normally see, like you described the pro league and the giant warm-up room and all the craziness and huge divisions. And I think that I do think that's a great experience, and I think that that's something that kids and parents can enjoy in. If they showed up with a different set of expectations, then that same experience would no longer be, the experience was going to be the same thing, but you led them.
Yeah. So it was neat. Last night we journaled. What did you learn from cheer sport? That was their topic. And it was really neat to see, I'm like, how did you feel after day 1? And they were, it was so exciting. And we just talked about like emotions, because I helped them name their emotions because they're a younger team. And it was just really neat to see that one of the kids said that they were proud. And I thought that was really neat. Like, wow, what a great culture that we've created. Like, I'm proud to be a part of that, And so just to be among the best and to get to be there among the best, I thought that really spoke a lot of it made me feel good that we had done the right thing for them, because you always question are they really ready? They say they're ready. They wanted this experience. So it was neat to have that validation.
That is such a challenge that we all have as leaders, because many of the Stingray gyms are super small. There's one that's really kind of close to our Marietta gym, but it's in a small town. They do a great job. But I remember, goodness gracious, this was 16 or 17 years ago. And the guy who was the director of that gym, we kind of were at a conflict, because he really believed in his heart that he was going to recreate cheer athletics in small town Georgia. And I didn't agree with that path. I was like, you can create an experience. You can create something else that is equally as good and beneficial to kids. However, if you're trying to be and emulate Plano out of small town Georgia, the two don't match up,
Right.
And like I say, he was not a bad guy. There wasn't any ill thing there, but he just, he was like, you're limiting me. I can do this. Let me show you. And it was like,
right.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
But I would like to be a Stingray. We have 3 restaurants in our town. We're just not, we don't have the demographic to have 400 athletes.
And most of the Stingray gyms don't either. However, they have that same ability to create incredible experiences, just like you did here. And, I'm proud to say many of them are doing it. I know that many of the premier gyms do that same thing, but it's challenging,
It is.
But I think the thing is that I love about what you're saying here is you lay it all on the line for the parents and the kids of where you are and what you're doing. And it's open and you're not trying to hide anything and you're not trying to be, you're true to your own culture, which is awesome.
Well, thank you.
I think it's so important to know, we say this all the time as well, but it's important to know your area, like you're right, Chasity, like you are where you are and but you are still building a great program within your community,
Absolutely.
Under the, I don't want to say restrictions, but just, based on the population, where it comes from, like you do have to do things differently. And I think it's so important for all gym owners to know that, like you kind of have to create that. You have to build your business knowing the space that you're in and build the best business that you can. And like Casey said, create the best experiences for your community and kind of where it is in that time period. I think that's so important.
I'll say it and I'll say it again. I think that All-Star Cheerleading especially is one of the greatest life builders on the planet. There's no other team sport like it, where you've got 2.5 minutes and no timeouts and no substitutions and 1,000 things going on. And like, if you can't work well with others, then you're not going to be successful in this sport. And then I think it sets these kids up to go on to have, successful careers, successful relationships and families. And it's just, like I said, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing that's quite like it in preparing kids for life.
Yeah, I love that it's all inclusive. Like everyone has a responsibility. It's not, 5 people start and the rest at the bench and might get in or might not. Like it really is a great teaching tool for responsibility and accountability. So
Absolutely. Well, I think it's time. Are you guys ready for my dad joke?
We are ready.
All right. I don't know if you guys are going to get this one. So last week's was pretty easy, but how do you get a country girl's attention? How do you get a country girl's attention?
I don't know.
Attract her. Attract her. Boom, boom.
I was going to say take her to a holler, but that's all
on the tractor.
On the tractor. All right, nice.
Oh, too funny.
All right, hey. We love our dad jokes. Make sure you send us your favorite dad jokes so we can share them on the show and give you a shout out. You can email those to Stacy at Join MotUS. That's STACY. Or you can DM us on our social media at Join MotUS. So with that, we're going to take a second and tell you a little bit about MotUS.
Owning a gym doesn't have to feel like you're pushing the bus uphill alone. Join MotUS, a powerhouse community of gym owners who share, support, and grow together. Inside the MotUS Vault, you'll get ready-to-use templates, fresh resources, and exclusive industry discounts. Plus, your membership includes 2 seats at the MotUS Business Expo in Nashville every year. 2 full days of growth, leadership, and networking, included at no extra cost. Ready to level up your gym game? Join MotUS at joinmotus.com. That's JOINMOTUS.com. All right, Chasity, are you ready to go into some fun questions? We can learn a little bit more about you. Who is Chasity? Okay.
I'm ready. Okay.
All right. If you could have dinner with one historical figure, who would it be and why?
I would say, maybe George Washington, just first president. I think, what is it like to be in charge of a country? I think leadership is important to me. So that's a
tough question right there.
It is a tough question. It was funny when I was putting it out there. I'm like, this is a good one for Chasity.
I would say there's a leadership.
I like that. I like that answer. Okay, what's the most unusual job you've ever done?
Oof. Mostly it's been cheer, but I would say a wound care nurse in a nursing home. That was quite interesting, the things that you see and have to deal with the elderly. So
Yikes. Okay.
We are going to have a podcast, a dedicated podcast over my weirdest job ever one day.
What was your weirdest job ever?
cologne model.
Okay. How does one actually be a cologne? Do people come up and smell you?
So when I was a young man, I had was pretty confident in myself, or heck, maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was not confident, but I presented myself in a way. And I was walking through a mall one day, and a lady was like, "Hi, would you like to try da-da-da-da for men?" And I said, "It's silly that you're trying to sell me that because, my lady would buy that for me. Like, men don't buy their own cologne." And I was kind of messing with her, and I said, "I should be selling the cologne, not you, because then I could sell it to a female who's buying it for her man." So there was a lady standing over to the side of the counter, and she said, "Young man, come over here." I was 17 years old at the time, and she was like, "So you're telling me that you could sell this better than her?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I could." And
oh my gosh,
and
punk.
right.
Anyway, that led to this great college, kind of late high school, college. I mean, I did that for 4 or 5 years, and understand this was in 1990, and they paid me
$4 an hour.
No, it was a ton, because I would work for the actual companies, and it wasn't commission based, and it was like $35 or $40 an hour.
Oh my God.
And I was so good at it.
You were a hustler back then.
I was so good at it that they would let me do 2 or 3 companies at the same time, because all they did was track your sales. And if your sales were good while you were there, so literally I would show up on Saturday and spend 8 hours working for Versace, Polo, whoever, selling all these colognes. They track your sales. And if you're good, then the companies would call you back and say, "Hey, we've got X amount more hours for you." And
that's crazy.
So
all right.
it was seasonal, a lot, Valentine's Day, Christmas, like different times like that. But
I worked on the rivet machine at my dad's sheet metal fabrication shop, where I would put in metal into a machine and it would like press a rivet down into a hole in the sheet metal.
All right.
So I would say that was one of my odd jobs. I did a lot of other things there too that were all kind of odd jobs. Okay, back to our questions.
Me too.
If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be?
Probably Superman.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Superman. Just I want to know what it's like to fly. So,
I love it.
Be nice.
What's your favorite way to relax after a long day?
Ooh, a glass of wine is nice. I really like to get in the sauna, honestly.
Okay.
Like, I like sweating. I like working out. So like sweating makes me feel alive, I guess. So,
okay.
Do you have a sauna?
I do.
Traditional or infrared?
Both of them.
It does both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does both.
I am in the market.
Well, I have one, and it's wonderful. I can send you the info.
Well, there you go.
I love that.
This one's a fun one. If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
Probably "Crazy" by Britney Spears. Yeah, it's a little crazy. My life is not normal. I will just say it's very, very busy.
I mean, if you're in the cheerleading world, running a gym, coaching teams, is it really normal ever?
It is definitely not normal. My 2 least favorite questions: remember me, and what do you do?
Right. Yeah.
It's so hard to explain to people what we do. Oh, you mean like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders? No, I don't mean that at all. So.
Right. Not even close. Good try though.
I love it. It's so true.
Yes.
Oh, all right, Casey. I think you got the question.
We got a question
right?
for one of our listeners. We love those, so make sure keep sending those as well. So, hi, this is Megan from Arizona. In youth sports, relationships between gym owners, coaches, parents, and even other programs can get complicated fast. How do you protect your culture and values when outside pressures or personalities start pulling things in different directions?
That is a great question. So I think, it's multifaceted. It's like a triad of people. I feel that, the communication and respect goes always. So I think first, communication has to be the basis of your expectations in a program, whether it be athlete expectations about gossip or, conversations that don't necessarily build the culture. And then also sharing that with parents. And, as we kind of talked before, being transparent as a gym owner specifically, I feel like is the secret sauce to keeping those kinds of things at bay. So for instance, my parents know that like gossip in the lobby is not something we tolerate, right? Even gossip about other programs, like, hey, you don't know who you're sitting to next to a competition, so you can't talk about who's on stage. I think because you're wearing our logo, right?
Yeah, don't point at somebody's uniform because
right. You can have an opinion. We all have them, but what you choose to do and share, is it going to be something that's going to positively affect your culture and represent us in a way that we want to be seen? And I think for the most part, our program does that. But, there is a lot of course correction. People are human. There are some people that are just drawn to drama. And as a gym owner, I like to really identify that up front. I mean, I think we have to pay attention. I think it's important to build bonds strong enough with parents who can be the eyes that when you're not there, they can feel comfortable enough to come to you. I think you have to be very open with communication in that you're not going to constantly defend and you're going to listen to learn and listen to not just defend your side, but also just being someone that they feel comfortable sharing, like maybe some bad things that they've heard so that you can address it. And I think most importantly is not sitting on that information. The longer you sit on it, a spark will become a wildfire. So in my experience, you address it head on. As soon as you get it.
Yeah, we talk about a partnership with our parents, especially with safety. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
We can't depend. We should never depend on one entity, one person, one anything to keep our kids safe. So we've got to partner in those things. And the thing, and then switching gears, I totally agree with what you said, and I think it's imperative as far as culture. You focus on your culture because as humans, we start to compare, and that, whatever that phrase, comparison is the thief of joy or whatever,
Right,
but it's like, what are we building? What is our culture? Let's focus on making that better because we oftentimes get hung up in like, oh my goodness, look at Top Gun. They're incredible.
Sure.
Well, the reality is nobody does Top Gun better than Top Gun. And if we take off trying to be Top Gun, then we're going to fail because we can't do Top Gun better than they do. So the thing that we can do is make our culture better and control what we're doing. And so it's really kind of a focus, an internal focus on your program and your kids and those things. So.
Absolutely.
I love that. I agree with both of you. And I think it's, it's okay to acknowledge that different programs have different cultures and they don't have to be just like you, and kind of explaining that to the kids and the parents too. Like, they are who they are. They're trying to do their thing. Absolutely. And they're doing it differently. And that's okay. We're going to, like you said, Casey, we're going to focus on the way that we're doing it. And that's how we're doing it here,
and there's no perfect thing because like I said, I've seen different gyms have big time success with a culture that is very different than what we're doing at our gym. And that's awesome because the reality is, like I said, I think this sport is so great. But also know, our program isn't for everyone. So I don't by any means think that they should be excluded from being able to participate in the sport because we're not a good fit. There's so many gyms that offer such different things and different experiences, and that's wonderful. And we want that. So it's important for the sport.
Awesome.
All right. I think I'm going to share a community win. So this is coming to us from a gym owner and a MotUS Edge listener. So they responded, after listening to the MotUS Edge episode on staff leadership and expectations, we realized most of our issues weren't athlete problems. They were clarity problems. We sat down as a staff and defined what great coaching looks like in our gym. We set non-negotiables and created consistency. Within a month, parent complaints dropped, practices felt calmer, classes ran smoother, and our coaches stepped up instead of waiting to be told what to do. We didn't need to hire new staff. We just needed to communicate better. Man, that's very fitting for what we talked about today. That is one of our measurables. How many emails, phone calls do we get after a competition weekend? And that is something that we've had a pretty good year. I had a couple issues to deal with at Cheer Sport, but we were on a run of going to several events to include some big events where we did not hear from any parents or no emails, no phone calls, no meetings after the event. But it was because of the open lines of communication. So I don't want to say that no one had any issues, because I'm certain they did, but they had an open line of communication with their coaches and their staff, and were able to deal with those. So.
Yeah. I went through our episodes too, and I tried to find, I think it was episode, 35 or 50, maybe, with Tilmer, where we talked about leading without being a jackass, his book. I think maybe one of those episodes are what this person is talking about. So anybody wants to go back.
I just passed that book along.
Oh yeah. If you haven't read it yet, Chastity, it's a really good book. It's I gotta get the official title, but it's Tilmer Wright is his name, is the author's name, Wright, and it's something about how to lead without being a jackass or something along those lines. But if you Google his name, you'll find it. So anyway, I think that it was episode 35 or 50 where we talked about those topics. We are excited to be hosting a live podcast from CX Brand's Nashville Nationals, also getting some fresh insight live from parents and coaches on site. Be sure to tune into that March 18th when the episode airs. It'll be really fun. It'll be our second live podcast. Our first one was at the MotUS Business Expo, so this will be our second one. We're super excited about that.
Those are a little scary.
Yeah. And actually, Casey, we need to plan this out, because I feel like you aren't going to be there the whole time. So I don't know if I have to do this by myself or what. We gotta talk about it.
We do.
It'll be good. It'll be good times. So. Maybe Chastity, are you going to be in Nashville at that event? Maybe I'll have you come on. No. Okay. Darn. All right.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. We have a new review from Amanda. She's a Texas gym owner. She said, I've been in the industry a long time, and the MotUS Edge podcast is one of the few that actually talks about what gym ownership really looks like. The hard conversations, the leadership struggles, the business side of things that we don't always post about on social media. It's honest and practical, and I love tuning in each week. So thank you so much, Amanda. That's really awesome. Yeah. Chastity, it has been wonderful having you on today, and all of your insight and ideas and everything about culture and gym and practice and just all the great things that you do with your kids. I think it's really awesome. So we're glad that you could be on today.
Good to see you. I feel like we've been hanging out the last 2 weeks.
I know.
So saw you at Cheer Sport, and then
at your gym.
And then saw you at our gym, and then thanks for shopping.
Good. It's good when we can all be friends in the industry, right? And help each other out. I love that.
Thank you guys so much for having me today. This is really great.
Yeah. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the MotUS Edge. Check out our short videos, like and comment. We love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Join MotUS, or on TikTok. And we have LinkedIn now at the MotUS Edge. Follow our show wherever you listen to your podcast. If you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, leave us a comment and tell all of your friends. And we are super excited to let you know that we will be officially launching a MotUS Edge website soon. So stay tuned for more on that. And hey, if you're a gym owner, join the movement and sign up for MotUS today. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're excited for you to have the MotUS Edge.
Boom. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmotus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.